Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our backyard. Today's video, I would like to share with you plants that have put on a show after our excessive heat, and now we are in a much more normal temperature for us. Or they're a plant that I'd like to share with you because there's something that I think is worthy to note. So I'm going to be talking about multiple, not a whole lot, but a few different plants. And the one you see here is a hanging basket. It's hanging from my tree, my Chinese tallow tree, and this is a Swedish ivy. Interestingly, it's flowering gorgeously right now. And last year, my Swedish ivy flowered at a different time, but this languished. It flowered in spring and partly in the summer, but this just languished during the summer. It's still alive, and it is rewarding me with these gorgeous little flowers. And I'm going to come in close. They're tubular shaped, and believe it or not, hummingbirds come to these flowers, and it's just putting on a show right now. So it hated the whole summer long, even though it's in the shade, and it's supposed to be in the shade. It is now just blooming its little heart off. It's 66 degrees this morning, and it feels fabulous. It's just wonderful. And this little Swedish ivy set is so happy that the weather has changed. The Texas heat dome is gone, and it's just rewarding with an explosion of flowers. I'm going to show you my Swedish ivy from last year. This also is a hanging basket that I overwintered, and it has not flowered, and it also hated the summer, just absolutely hated it. And it's also in the shade, which it's supposed to be, but it's finally starting to recover now. And I do like hanging baskets, and I do like the Swedish ivy. This one flowered prolifically last year, and I thought I was going to lose it this year, and it's hanging on. I did clip it, so it's not as long as it was, but it is putting on new growth, and it's looking much better now that the temperatures have cooled off. Okay, next plant I want to share with you is this Celosia that I planted in the early summer, and it was just a small nursery pot, and I can't believe how it's overtaken this planter. I'm going to show you the nursery tag. This is called Dragon's Breath, and it puts on its show midsummer through the early fall. Its flowers are supposed to be a butterfly favorite. And it is in full sun. It does have consistent soil moisture because I do have drip on it. And it is grown as an annual. I absolutely am shocked with this plant. So I'm going to show you the flower, the Dragon's Breath flowers that it had, and those are gone. The big ones are gone, but this plant has just exploded. I had 2 other plants in here, and it's overtaken the planter. I just think this is a beautiful Celosia plant. I'm just surprised with all the growth that it's put on. It's in a pot with also this Superbina, which is called Sparkling Amethyst. And Sparkling Amethyst did well, but it is not as gorgeous and prolific as this celosia has been. And you know, quite frankly, this summer that we had did not phase it at all. And that surprised me because some of the annuals, like you see down below, the Superbena did not like the 110-degree heat. But this celosia just has grown all summer long. And I'm going to scan back a little bit. And you can see that it is in a pretty big planter. I've got it in a fairly large planter. And this has been a beautiful and wonderful surprise for me. So these little flowers that's blooming now is smaller than the big bloom that it put on earlier in the summer. But I like the color. I just love the color of the foliage. The new foliage is this gorgeous maroon color. It's also got green with maroon tips for the more mature foliage. It's been a beautiful, beautiful surprise. And I do have to make a nice mention on this gorgeous coral porterweed. You know me, I am a porterweed fan. The flowers are so wonderful because they're full of nectar all day long. Isn't that a beautiful color? My porterweed has been happy due to the wonderful weather. Okay, next plant I'd like to share with you is my Lantana. And I know I've spoken about this plant recently, but I really, really want to explain and show what this plant does. So this Lantana is my absolute favorite Lantana. And you'll notice, see that little cluster that's already flowered? That does not set seed. This is a sterile Lantana, so this is what the blooms look like. But it doesn't set seed. And I'm going to show you the tag here. And it's from the Bloomify series. This flower is called Rose. And I do have it on drip, so you'll see it says keep evenly moist for continuous flowering. And I do have it on drip. So this was a champ in our heat. It did sustain some damage. But this claim to fame is because it is a mounding type of Lantana. And someone did ask me about these thinking they were berries. But it is a sterile variety and it mounds. The reason why I wanted to show you my Lantana today is because this particular Lantana can get large if you don't trim it, and I did not trim it all year summer long. So we are now mid-October, and I want to share with you that it has kind of grown up with, if you will, and amongst my Kufia. So this Rose Lantana is, golly, almost up to my, oh, not quite my neck. So this is very, very large. It says it gets 12 to 14 inches. It's clearly 3.5 feet. So I did not trim it. I wanted to share that with you that I did not. And bring this over. It's such a wonderful flower. It's a hit in the garden with pollinators. And even though it did sustain some damage, like I mentioned, some heat damage, it's just been a trooper in the garden. I'm going to show again the rose. Not the rose, the red. So this is what this lantana does. It mounds. And this is the red lantana. Just like the rose, it's the Bloomify series. It's sterile. It will not set seed. And you can see it just flowers and flowers and flowers on this umbral. But then there's no seed. So it doesn't concentrate on making the seed, and it concentrates on more flowers and blooming. And I couldn't be happier with this lantana. It is my hands down absolute favorite. This one is the red. And I do want to point out on the tag, it says it's the only lantana that never stops flowering. And that is really true. So it doesn't multiply in the yard, but it does come back from a freeze. Now, we are in zone 9A, and this has come back from our 2 really tough freezes. So this is, it's gone through 2 difficult freezes for us. And when I say difficult, we're talking into the 20s and then also down into the upper teens. And of course it did die back to the ground, but it came back from the roots. And so this is just growth in 1 season. And it is really gorgeous growth in the landscape. And I have it on the end here in what we call our tree bed. And it's just a beautiful performer in the pollinator garden. All right, I want to show you another lantana. This lantana is called Luscious Berry Blend. And this is from Proven Winners. It says it will get 20 to 30 inches tall. And it should be in full sun. This has been in full sun. It says it's heat tolerant and drought tolerant. Of course, I have it in a pot, and the pot isn't huge, but it's not small. And this particular lantana struggled. It grew. It's not like my mounding Bloomify series. It's more like a vase. I do enjoy the flowers, but it wasn't a prolific flowerer like the Bloomify. I do like the color. And you'll see it's flowered, but it doesn't just keep sending up nodes. So while it did perform, it didn't like it. So even though it has sustained some damage, it does not like it as much, or it did not survive, if you will, our Texas heat like the Bloomify series did. Now, granted, the difference was that I had this in a pot in full sun and the other was in the ground in full sun. But I was not happy with this. I want to show you another Proven Winners that did a little better. I've got 2 pots that I had hanging baskets that I put this luscious lantana in. And let me show you the tag. This was the Royale Pina Colada lantana. And you can kind of see the bloom here. It was a gorgeous, really pretty bloom, and it bloomed very well, and the plant did so much better. And again, like I've said, lantana, it did sustain some damage from the 110 degree heat that we had. And the reason it's not hanging and I don't have them in hanging basket, that I don't have them hanging, is because I have my hummingbird feeders hanging at the moment, because we're going through kind of towards the end of hummingbird migration, but I wanted to have these still in full sun. So all of my lantana were in full sun. These were in hanging baskets, which had much less of a pot than that Luscious Berry Blend did, but the Pina Colada from Proven Winners did so much better, and it bloomed. A couple days ago, it was just covered in blooms again, and I had the hummingbird over here on this particular lantana. Just love the blooms. Interestingly, this one does set some seed, so that will set some seed, but not a lot. So in preference, I do prefer this Pina Colada, Royale Pina Colada, better than that Luscious Berry Blend. And both were from Proven Winners, and both were in pots. Okay, finally, I pulled this lantana out of the ground, and this is what I call the sprawling lantana. And I didn't know what to do with it, so I potted it up, and I have it under my tree, and it's in the shade. And lantana does not like shade. It certainly didn't like the heat, but it still flowered, and I've still had, it's not gone through its flowering so much right now. It's kind of dormant, but I don't like this habit because it just sprawls all over, and I don't have the space to have a huge sprawling lantana that just sprawls all over the place. But I didn't know what to do with it, and so to show you the difference, you know, this sucker just goes all over, and it can go up to 6 feet. And this is more of a traditional type lantana. And it's not a favorite of mine. So will I get rid of it? I'm not sure. I kind of liked it here under. It was some nice greenery under my gorgeous cypress tree. The bald cypress. Sorry about that. So I've kind of liked it. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet, but I did want to share with you what the difference between the mounding lantana and this sprawling lantana does. So if you're more interested in more like a ground cover, or a little bit more of a bush that has ground cover like tendencies, the original lantana that you can get, the Lantana camera, certainly does well. I don't want them to propagate and spread a lot of seed, and so that's why I definitely prefer the mounding lantana that's sterile that I showed you first in the Bloomify series. So back here where I first started with my hanging basket of Swedish Ivy. Thank you for joining me this morning. And I hope you have a wonderful day. Hope to see you again.